In this video, I have a piece of U.S. military ordnance. What I have here is a training aid example of the most common mine in the U.S. military inventory. There are millions of these in the inventory. This mine was produced back in the 1950s. That's when the last of them came off the production line. This is the M15 heavy metallic anti-tank mine. As I said, it's the most common one out there. These mines have been through at least one refurbishment program. In the refurbishment program, they went through, they checked everything out, and they would check the explosives. If the explosives was degrading, they replaced the explosives. Now the filler in these mines, the explosive is Comp B. That does not degrade as quickly or as easily as TNT. It is also less affected by moisture. Now, what you need to put this mine into use, you need the mine itself, you need the M20 arming wrench, and the M603 fuse. I do not have the actual training 603 fuse for this. I had to make one using pictures as best I could, and then I had to do a few modifications to it to get it to fit into this mine. But the 603 fuse looks like this. They're only about an inch tall or so, a little over an inch. And then right below the pressure plate here, which is on top, there would be a safety clip that would go through here, keeping that pressure plate from getting pressed down. On that safety clip, there's a little ring on the side, and that will come into play when we're arming the mine. Now the scenario I'm going to do with this particular mine is, we are a guerrilla unit. We captured some crates of these mines on a supply convoy, or we stole them from a ammunition storage point on the enemy base, and we're going to put these in operation. We've determined that we're going to need some. We have an ambush we're going to be doing. The unit that we got word is going to be heading down this road. They typically employ 1 or 2 tanks with them, main battle tanks, and we need to disable those. We need to stop them to create a roadblock. So we're going to take a few anti-tank mines with us, and we got the M15s. Now before we leave our base camp, wherever we had the mines at, before we go out on a mission, we're going to have to inspect them. Same as if you're in the U.S. military and you're going to put these into a minefield, you got to inspect them. Open up the crates. You'll have the 603 fuse, which will be inside a can like this. You're supposed to have 2 fuses inside each case of mines, if I remember correctly. Open up the crate, look inside, inspect the mine. Make sure there's no obvious damage or tampering. The pressure plate here is not already pressed down on the mine. If it is, can't use it. The Bellevue spring that's inside here has reversed itself for whatever reason. You try arming this, it's going to set it off. Also go through and check the secondary fuse wells. Check the secondary fuse wells. There's one on the side, one underneath. These are for anti-handling devices. I'm not going to cover that in this task right now. But when you're inspecting the mine, peel the tape back, because it's a little piece of old style engineer tape. Look inside, make sure there's nothing inside those fuse wells. Put the tape back over. If that tape won't go back over, put a new piece of engineer tape over it. Or 100 mile an hour tape. Next, you're going to want to inspect the fuse well. Take your M20 arming wrench. You got the 2 little wings on here. If you can see the profile, the side of the wrench. Bridge over the top of the arming plug. Counterclockwise. Loosen it up. Remove the arming plug. First check the gasket, especially if this is going to go into a field for long term. If it's going out for an ambush, it's not going to matter as much unless it's wet conditions. Check the condition of the gasket, make sure it's not degraded. Check that the arming plug is in the safe position, and when it's in the safe position, we've had trouble zooming in before. You have safe, danger zone, and armed. In the safe position, which is over here to the right, make sure that the arming lever or arming bar is off on the side. Turn your arming plug to the armed position. So that goes over to your other side, to the left as you're looking at it. Make sure that the arm bar has now moved over to center. Put it back into safe. If you can't do it by hand, use your wrench. That's what this part is for. This goes over this piece here. On the real mines, on the training mines, for some reason they don't line up as good. Then take this, set it to the side. When you set it to the side, set it upside down like this. Look down inside your fuse well. Can you see the bottom of the fuse well there, camera guy? Thumbs up if you're good. Okay, you'll see a little ledge in there. On the real mine, below that ledge, there's going to be a booster. There's none present in this one. And that little ledge is going to be a snap ring, a retaining ring, holding that booster in. Look inside the mine, make sure the booster's in there. If there is no booster, doesn't matter if you fuse this, it won't go off. Because that fuse sets off the booster, which then sets off the Comp B inside this mine. Everything's clear, there's no debris in there. If there is any debris, set this to the side like so. Hold it with one hand, pat it with the other until it comes out. Take your arming plug, screw it back on. The mine is good. Check your can that has your 603 fuse. Make sure that the can is not messed up. Now the can with the 603, it'll be shorter than this, a little bit wider. It'll be green. It'll say M603 fuse. You'll have a lot number on it. You'll have the date of manufacture on it. The date of manufacture is the month and year. That's all it's going to have on it. When you go out on a mission, or when you put these mines into use, you have to carry 2 603 fuses with you. In case there's problems with one, you have a replacement. That's one of the reasons why there's 2 fuses with each crate for the M15. So set that to the side. Now, we take our stuff, pack it up in our rucksack, we join the ambush patrol, we go out on the ambush. When we're up on the ambush site, we find out where the mines are supposed to be. We check the roadway, choose our locations. We're going to emplace 2 or 3 mines, just in case they miss one. Maybe they won't miss the next one. And for a safety measure, we have a 3rd one a little bit farther down the road in a slightly different position, but in the path that we anticipate they're going to drive. The engineers are sent forward to do their part of the operation. They go out on the road to where the mines are supposed to be at, set the mine, 2 cans with the 603 fuses, arming wrench there, and we dig our hole right next to the mine. When we're checking the hole to make sure we had the right size, we'll just set the stuff to the side. We lower the mine into the hole to make sure we get the correct depth and stuff. Now the mines for these holes obviously need to be wide enough the mine can fit in, and the edges of these holes have to be dug at a 45-degree angle all the way around. The reason for that is so the target does not bridge over the top of the mine without putting pressure on the pressure plate. Now, the pressure plate on the M15 takes approximately 300 to 400 pounds of downward pressure on this plate here to set the mine off. Now, when we're digging the hole, we're putting this in the roadway. We're going to dig our hole so that the top of the roadway is basically to the edge here of the pressure plate. So we have a little bit that's going to be over the top. We got it in the hole now. The hole is dug. We backfill it. We backfill the dirt to here. The dirt that does not get used when we're digging out the hole, we put in sandbags to remove it from the area. Now, the sapper goes into the prone and behind the mine, depending on how you look at it, either in front or behind, and he needs to arm it. Takes a M20 arming wrench, opens up the arming plug, sets it right there on the mine or right next to it on the dirt, takes his can with the 603 fuse. There's a little tab on it, like that, near the top. On the bottom of the can, there's a key. Take the key off the bottom, put it in the tab, twist it all the way around to open up the can. Take the top off. There's going to be a piece of like impregnated type paper in here protecting the fuse. Take that out. Fuse will come with it. Unwrap it. Grasp your fuse like so between two fingers. The reason two fingers, the theory is if this little bugger goes off, you're only going to lose two. Take your wrench, you have the two little hooks here, hook that wrench into the loop on the safety clip right below the pressure plate. Pull it straight out. Don't rock it back and forth, up and down, because you do that, you're putting pressure on the pressure plate. Pull it straight out. Set that down. Make sure not to lose that clip. Take your fuse, grasp it with the other hand, two fingers. Your two fingers will bridge the side of the pressure plate and the very top part of the body of the fuse itself. Lower it down into the fuse well and set it in there. In actuality, it will be above. On the real mine, the pressure plate will be above this, but with the screwed up tolerances on the training mine, it has to be flush. On the real one, this pressure plate's going to be above. Take your safety clip, put it in your pocket, or you got your can nearby, put it inside the can. Don't lose the can, hang on to it. So the mine's in the hole. Now we have to do our tolerance check. This is something that got left out of the emplacement procedures for a long time, but it's very important. You got a tab on the side of the M20 arming wrench. This is why. You have to check the clearance now. When we were taught to do this many decades ago, put it in here, you're right, left, and you're up and down. If, when you're going through, that tab hits the side of the pressure plate or any piece of the pressure plate, you need to replace it. First, make sure that this is seated in here good. You know, it might be just off kilter, just a little bit kind of wedged in there. Make sure it's seated in there correctly, and then go through, check it again. If it fails a second time, that's why you have your second fuse with you. This passed. So now we take our arming plug, put it in the mine, take the arming wrench, snug it up, take our wrench, go from safe to armed. Now, as we're passing through the danger zone here between the safe and armed, if at any time we meet resistance, it feels like it's hitting the fuse, stop. Put it back on safe, take the plug out, remove the fuse, grab your backup fuse, put it in there, do your safety check, go through and then continue your procedures. But we're going to say we had no problems. and we got it all the way into armed. Make sure it's all the way over into armed. It'll go to a point where it's just going to stop. Then go through, camouflage a mine. Now, if we are putting this inside a grass field, it's part of a minefield, it's in your alpha row, it's in your IOE. Take the grass that you cut out your nice little patch of, lay that as a carpet over the top. In the roadway here, we cover this up with soil, and I'm going to give you a little tactic here that was employed by the Mujahideen against the Soviets back in the 1980s. The Mujahideen used to put their mines right in the track used by Soviet vehicles, because the Soviet drivers would travel straight down the same track of the vehicles in front of them, because that's the only safe location on that road. So what the Mujahideen sappers were trained to do, put the mine in, put the dirt back over the top, then they would take sticks and they would mimic perfectly the track of the vehicle that this was put in. So if it was a tank tread, they would go through and perfectly match the series for the tank tread. If it was a truck tire, they would perfectly match the truck tire, so that the next driver coming along would not notice anything different and drive straight down that track, right over the top of the mine. So, our mine's in position, it's camouflaged, ambush happens. The first mine gets set off, tank gets disabled, creating the giant roadblock. We're successful, we wipe out the enemy convoy. We still have a mine or two out there that we can use. So we go out to where the mine is, stop short, and we start doing our sweep, our two-finger sweep to find the mine. Find the edge, feed it around, find the outer edges, and then clean off the mine. Your sapper should be in the prone then. Take their arming wrench, go from armed to safe, flip it over, remove the arming plug without putting any pressure on the pressure plate. But it does take 300 to 400 pounds of downward pressure to set the pressure plate off, so unless the engineer is standing on top of it, jumping up and down should be okay. Set your arming plug to the side. You would reach inside with two fingers, grab the edges of the fuse, right on the edges of the pressure plate, lift it up and out. Now, because of this mine, we're going to go through the procedures for if the fuse is jammed in there. Clear out around the mine so that it's free. Reach in on the side, hand on the other side to kind of press down. Pick it up a little bit. Get our fingers up underneath the mine, put our hand over the fuse well, kind of bring it in. Get it to a slight angle. If need be, tap on it a little bit till the fuse falls out into your hand. Grasp it with two fingers at that point while putting the mine back down. Take your safety clip, put it back in between the fuse body and the pressure plate and that little cut there. So you safe the fuse. You then would put it back inside the can, set it to the side till you're done. Take your arming plug, put it back in the mine, snug it, doesn't have to be super tight. Clear out the rest of the dirt if you haven't already. Grasp it, remove the mine from the hole. Pack your stuff up, leave with the ambush party. Now, there is a note with the M15s and all anti-tank mines. They can be reused a certain number of times. I do not remember it was 15 times, 20 times, or 25 times. It's been a long time since I've had to deal with it. On the side of a lot of the mines, there'll be a piece of engineer tape right here on top, and there'll be tick marks telling you how many times this mine has been used and reused in training or for actual missions. Make sure, add your little hash mark on there showing that, hey, this was put in place and armed one more time. If you're in the conventional military, the regular military, once you get to that number of maximum number of hash marks, maximum number of uses, these mines are taken out to a site and they're blown up, they're disposed of. For a guerrilla, basically when you get to that, you know, you're at the point where you have one more emplacement. Use it for an actual minefield. Put it off to a side, you know, mark the crate, mark the mine or whatever that, hey, one more use on this, so it'll go out into a protective minefield. It'll get emplaced that one final time. No reason to waste it. Now, the reason you have a set number of times that you can, under U.S. doctrine, reuse these mines, it has to do with the pressure plate and the arming plug. They're worried that things will degrade for whatever reason, and it's just a safety thing. Though I'm sure in actual combat, these things are going to get reused whatever number of times is needed until literally you start seeing too much play in it. And it fails its safety checks. So there you go. The M15 heavy metallic anti-tank mine. As I said, it's the most common one in the inventory. It is easy to use. This is a task that every engineer has to know by heart. When we went through our mine training, we were taught on each individual mine, one mine a day. Come in, put in the same mine over and over and over and over and over again from the early in the morning to late in the evening, and by the end of the day, you were literally putting it in your sleep. Very simple. Now, for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot and militia movements, always remember, essay ons.